Oh, hello, welcome to UEA in Norwich in Britain, the home of the Brand Leadership course, and welcome to our webinar. We're thrilled that you're interested in joining the course, and we have with us Peter, my colleague. Peter and I run the course, but also, more importantly, three current Brand Leadership students. Linda?
Yeah, hi, I'm Linda from China.
Tom? Hey. And Amy?
Hi, I'm from Vietnam.
So China, Britain and Vietnam, which just gives you a bit of an indication of how culturally broad the class always is here on the Brand Leadership Programme. We're here for the next 30 minutes to answer any questions that you have about the course and to have a chat about branding generally, hopefully give you a bit of a sense of what it's like to study here at UEA. I saw something over the weekend that Norwich is officially the safest university city in Britain.
Yeah.
So, which makes it sound dull, doesn't it? It's actually quite an exciting place as well. So it's the best of both worlds, I think, in Norwich. Brand Leadership, now it's the only course in the world called Brand Leadership. Peter, why Brand Leadership? What's the significance of that? Why is it not just branding?
Well, I think the world is changing so quickly at the moment, both in terms of culture, in terms of technology, in terms of our communications and so on, that actually brands that are really going to dominate in future are the ones that can not only react to that change, but create that change. And I think the word leadership is really important because they've got to become not just leaders of the brand itself, but they've got to be leaders of the teams of people, they've got to be leaders of technology, they've got to be leaders of industry as well, within their own industry. And of course that might sound as if we are aiming at the big world brands, but we're not actually. We're talking about all brands, so it could be a local coffee shop that is leading in its little environment, in its little neighborhood. So leadership, I think, is something which is about creating change. And I think that's, for me, the important thing.
How far do you feel like a brand leader so far, Amy?
Well, I'm getting there. So yeah, I learned a lot throughout this course. So it's not just about branding, but also like how to be a leader yourself, how to be teamwork, cooperate with others. I think it's a very good aspect from brand leadership course.
And brand itself is an interesting word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because people sometimes think it just means logos
Yeah.
and slogans and stuff. We have a broader view, Tom, I'd say, than that.
Yeah, we see brands as more than just a business. It's a side of the business. It's like a personality, and it can help guide decision making and like really position products in consumers' minds. And it's just a really useful tool for business when you take it seriously.
So it's kind of a set of ideas in people's minds that change how they act, a kind of pretty powerful thing. And how does branding look from China? This is possibly the most dynamic market in the world. How good is China at branding, do you think?
Actually, we have a lot to develop, but so far we don't regard branding as an individual part of business. So they are all more engaged with marketing or advertising, but actually, for my point, it's like a comprehensive work, more than marketing and advertising. It's not a part of them, but beyond them.
That's very much what we believe here, that marketing is a subset of branding,
Yeah.
rather than the other way around. But industry in China hasn't necessarily reached that point yet.
Yes,
Yeah.
because lack of the human resources, I think, is the main point.
It's the main thing. I'm really interested in Vietnam because we get a lot of students from Vietnam, and a lot of really good students from Vietnam. Where is Vietnam in relation to branding, do you think?
I think it's a very, very early step because, we know about branding, we don't really know how to implement it. So people think that branding is just like a kind of marketing, but, we got many new thinkers think that, we need to do a little bit more about branding. So I think it's getting there, but it's a very early step in Vietnam as well.
Right. What's going to be the first global brand from Vietnam?
Wow. It's a difficult question, but we got like some IT technologies like really developing that is not right in the very first interview.
Yeah.
So we got the very first smartphone made in Vietnam. I think it can be a very big step for Vietnam if But and again, the power is in the hand of the branding.
So what's the Vietnamese smartphone called?
It's called B-phone.
B-phone.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So you heard it here first.
Yeah.
B-phone. This is the next big brand. Okay, B-phone from Vietnam. Okay, so we have the first questions come in asking how much contact does this course have with industry? Because of course this is an academic course in university, but branding happens as in the real world in industry. How much contact would you say, Tom, you've been getting with the real world so far?
More than enough.
Oh, more than enough. Okay.
If anyone wants a mentor, everyone's given a mentor in the industry that matches their sort of aspirations, and we go on very regular trips to agencies and companies. So I think we have all the contact we need. Really.
Okay. What's been the highlight for the trip so far, Linda, for you?
I think we have covered different aspects of branding in terms of agency and real and very successful companies, which is the top companies in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we also come to some very like individual working workshops like that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like branding is everywhere. It's not about big business, but also for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, we get a chance to go and visit some quite famous brands like Burberry, for
Yeah.
instance. Amy, what did you get from? Because Burberry, we're very lucky to get inside Burberry. It doesn't happen very often. What did you get from the sort of sneak inside view of Burberry?
What I really love, that is my favorite, like going to Burberry. What I learned a lot about luxury branding and how, like from visual identity, they actually create the branding based on, like, it's not just a fashion kind of thing, but it's like more dynamic than that. So I think that's what I learned from going to Burberry, actually. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it, how sometimes you get by visiting a particular branding company, you get a snapshot of a bigger kind of dynamic in the industry. And then we talked a lot at Burberry about the democratization of luxury, which is a big deal everywhere, but Burberry in some ways is right at the heart of that, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it sort of comes back to the point you were asking me about earlier about leadership. Brands do not exist in isolation. They are part of society, they're part of culture. And when culture changes, and not just fashion, but sort of deep-seated culture changes, brands need to react to that. So if you study a particular brand, you get this insight into not just business, not just a brand, not just customers, but you actually get a much deeper insight into society and how that is changing, which for me is why brands are so fascinating, because they are potentially at the heart of just about everything that human beings do, in the modern business world.
It's a good point, is it? Can we ever escape branding? Are we sort of engulfed by? Is there too much branding? What do you think?
I think that's the way how you see brands. If you see brands as your own personality, I think it's not overused. But if you see brands as sometimes a tool to, to get customers engaged in your business, if you don't implement it very appropriately, that might be sometimes like a liar.
And we do, because branding is such a powerful force, there are ethical questions. It's like any powerful force, it can be used for good or for ill, and we do talk about the ethics of it. Where are you, Tom, on this? Do you think overall branding is a force for good, or is it a dangerous thing?
I think it's a force for good. I think there's an argument both sides. Like, you could say a brand adds a lot of value to something that's maybe not worth much on its own. Like, there's a lot of artisanal water, for example, which is just water. You could say that it's really quite unethical to charge so much for something that's just water. But if it's bringing someone happiness and they enjoy the luxury of owning that particular water, then I think you can see both sides. Like, it does bring happiness to people's lives.
People are prepared to pay for the meaning as well as for the product, I guess, and what's wrong with that?
Yeah. And I think that example, Tom, you used there of water is a really good one, because of course then we're seeing a new type of brand emerge now, like One Water, and these are brands which have been set up simply to do good in the world. They obviously have to cover their costs and so on, but any surplus money they make having covered their costs goes to good causes. So it's a new type of brand that we're seeing emerge now. So I think it's a really good example, Tom.
Great, okay. Well, we're 10 minutes into the webinar, so we're a third of the way through. And we have a question now from someone who wants to know How practical is the course? Is it theory, or do you get to do practical things? Amy, what would you
Well,
say?
I think I've got the best of both, where I got theoretical, so we through the lecture, through the seminar, but also I've got so many trips to London, and we got to know the inside of many different brands and agency, and also with the mentor. And also we are doing a live project with the real customer, and I think it's really, really practical at the moment. So we actually meet the customer, dealing with them and all of that stuff, and we're doing it for 10 weeks. So I think it's really practical.
So tell us a bit about your particular customer.
We're doing Lisa Angel, which is like a small Norwich business accessories at the moment. So yeah,
What kind of business?
It's accessories, jewelry, lifestyle kind of
Yeah.
business in Norwich. It's a very small brand, but also because it's small, we got a lot of room for improvement, and we got a lot to do with them. And yeah, we met our client every 1 or 2 weeks, and like actually doing the project with them. So I think it's really, really practical in this kind of. Yeah.
I think another practical example was the collaboration that we did with the newer students.
Yeah.
So newer, Peter, is
Newer is Norwich University of the Arts, and they run a series of different master's programs. One of them is on communication design. So for the first time 2 years ago, we started a collaboration. So our brand strategists can work with their communication design master students, and we work to help local charities. So we're doing our little bit to try and help purpose in society too. And I think that was quite an interesting project too, wasn't it?
What's your hands-on experience, Linda? Who's your client?
My client is a technology company named Graphenius currently, and we are trying to help them to find a new name to be out.
Graphenius. Okay.
Graphenius is really hard to pronounce, but it's about a material named graphene, and it's the strongest and the lightest material in the world, and working with Cambridge labs. So it's a startup business, and it has a huge vision. So we have to help them to positioning themselves to find their purpose in this business, and to find the real big ambitions future behind this business, because it's not technology, actually it's for lifestyle.
Okay. So we've got a jewelry business. We've got a very high-tech materials business. Tom, your client?
Yeah, I'm working with 2 academics who want to start a platform for home-based workers. And I don't want to give away my presentation. But we've taken it to a more exciting level now.
Oh, all right, okay.
Look forward to that.
I should explain that class starts soon after this webinar, so every week you guys give us an update on your projects, and we will compare notes and so on. So we're interested to see where we've got to this afternoon. And we have master classes as well, and actually this afternoon we've got a really, really good presenter who's a writer. He knows about writing in a particular style or tone of voice for different brands. And hopefully that would be quite useful for the projects as well. We have another question in, just coming up to halfway through the webinar, on about the class, kind of how people want to know how big is the class and what's the mix of different countries and ages and all those kinds of things. Well, how would you describe that?
So we've got 27 students in our class, which is like a really small class to my experience. And we've got 40 different countries. So we got a very mixed culture. We studied together. I've learned a lot about different cultures around the world. So yeah, we've got a really good mix of different cultures in a very small class, I would say.
Do you all get on, Tom, or is there so many different backgrounds? Does that make for a really good mix, or does it make for cultural differences? Or
there's not been any problems. I think it's really interesting how a lot of people from different countries have different views on brands, so you get to see how people, you might see a brand as like a given thing, like you see these complex ideas of brands, and then you're working on a project with someone who is used to seeing a brand as a name.
Yes.
It's quite interesting how we approach things differently.
It is. And for people like Peter and me who get to look at your coursework and market, it's really fascinating, because one of the pieces of work you did last term was a comparison between how Generation X people in their 30s and 40s and Generation Y people in their 20s see branding. And of course, there are differences, there are similarities, but what was much more interesting was the differences between different countries.
Yes.
So what it means to be Generation Y in Vietnam or China is totally different from what it means to be Generation Y here. And very interesting to read that, I think.
I think the varying age of the class is quite good as well, because we've got some people who've got a lot more industry experience, because a couple of us have stayed on from undergraduate and haven't been out and worked in branding yet. And they give us quite good advice and guidance. They're happy to help us with it.
And equally, you guys don't yet know what isn't possible. So it's also very good to have your input into projects. And last year we had someone in her 50s, didn't we? So
Absolutely.
A huge range of ages.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, I mean, it is a course which is designed for people from all levels and all different countries. And as we've just been talking, that is the beauty of this course. You know, it makes it a very rich environment. And I think all the students who graduate from this course go away with an address book full of names, addresses, contacts all around the world, which, you know, we describe it as the brand family, and it is like a family, you know. When the students are here, they work together, they laugh together, sometimes they cry together.
Sometimes they even go out with each other together.
Yes, I'm not saying this is a dating site, but you know, we have had some relationships started.
So when you're not just signing up for a course, really, you're joining a family that will last for a lot more than just a year.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it leads us on to the next question. Someone's asking here about what kinds of careers people go on to afterwards. Now, you three are not yet there. What career would you ideally like, Linda?
For me, at first, I thought I would be a brand agent. Right now, I think, because for me, brand is comprehensive.
So your background is journalism, isn't it?
It's not like journalist, it's more like writing work.
Writing, okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, I would like to work with foreign countries to manipulating their words into Chinese market. But so far, I think I can do more because of this course. Right. So I would like to work with different people in different countries, because our brand class is really multicultural. That makes me confident to be more in this area. I think China is somehow limited. Yeah. So I see to be globally.
Where do you imagine you'd be based then, doing all of that?
Sorry?
Where would you live, here or in China or?
Yes, I used to live in Guangzhou.
No, but after the course?
I'm not sure.
Not sure, yeah. Okay, no, that's fine. And what about you? What does your future career look like?
Personally, I would love to work for a branding agency. And personally, ideally is a small one, so that I can actually work, you know, I can actually really make a difference. So personally, ideally, that's what I want. And I want to stay, well, it's not important where I want to stay, because, you know, like, as long as I do the thing I like, so it doesn't matter. So either UK or Vietnam or anywhere else. So personally, ideally, that's my future plan.
But looking for a branding agency.
Yeah, branding agency, definitely.
And Tom, what's your dream job?
If you'd asked me a couple of months ago, I would have said I definitely want to work agency side in branding. But after the visit to Burberry, I'm not really so set on agency and sort of open to anything. I definitely want to work in London when I graduate, and then eventually move to the States.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think that's an example of a very mobile, young professional set that we've got here. That mobility is something which happens all the time.
I think that's right. And but also you've illustrated that the choice that's open to people between working for a big branded company or a small branded company, or for an agency or a consultancy. And interesting. I've only ever worked on the agency side, so I don't know what it's like to work in a big company. But I guess the advantage there is that you get to see things through, don't you, in a way that you never quite do in an agency.
And of course, there is a third career option, and that's setting up your own business.
Yes.
And a number of graduates have done that.
Yep.
Either setting up their own agencies, and we've got 3 students from last year who are in the process of setting up their agency now here in Norwich. or even setting up their own brands.
Mm.
I don't know if you remember Anna from our very first intake.
I do, from Russia.
From Russia, yes. She set up a beer brand and some farm shop brands. So, you know, that is another activity.
But we have people, brand leaders from previous years now working in really big companies like AstraZeneca and Google and Virgin Atlantic, but also working in brand agencies, quite a lot now, probably a dozen or so in London.
Yes.
Even more than that actually, but in Australia,
Yes.
and in China as well.
But it's interesting you were saying, Tom, about working in London, because a lot of people dream of working in London. And we've also got a number of overseas students who've come here who've secured permanent jobs in London. One of our graduates from last year, Anna Shokolenko, you have met her at the Burberry trip. She's now working full-time in Fitch and had her visa sponsored. And Sarah Shelley, who works at the Good Agency, again, she had her visa sponsored. So there are opportunities, not always easy, but there are opportunities. And I think that's because this course offers such a unique perspective.
There totally are, and in fact I had because I should explain, I teach here on a Monday, but I work in London at an agency in the rest of the week, and I had lunch one day last week with a student from 4 or 5 years ago who's now working for a brand agency called Fitch, and she's running their biggest project, which is for a startup car company. So it's a joint venture between Volvo and Geely, which is the Chinese company that owns Volvo, that's creating a completely new car brand called Link & Co. And Anna appears to be in charge of half a dozen different teams working on every aspect of creating this completely new car brand. So it's exciting to see what people go on to do, though.
And I think another aspect of that is that many of our alumni who are now working in agencies are coming to us specifically so that they can recruit graduates from the course, because they know what they've experienced here on the course. They know the benefit they've secured.
Yes. So
So they're coming back to us and saying, have you got some good people to work
Yes.
for us?
Yes. So yeah, no, that's right. That's how it works. We have another question coming in. Someone's asking, what would you say is the biggest trend in branding at the moment? What's changing in branding? This is something we spend a lot of time discussing and debating. So not easy to answer it in a sentence, but Amy, what do you think is the biggest thing that's going on at the moment?
Well, that's a difficult, tough one. So we did an assignment about it, like different big trends in branding. So I would personally say it's mass personalizations.
Mass personalization, okay.
Well, personalization is not a new trend, but mass personalization is. So we're talking about like how digital can actually make things possible. So because of the advantage of the technology, we now have, like with the shared Coke style, shared Coke campaigns, and like going forward from that. So now it's not like just well-spent consumer have a right to access to personalized stuff, but everyone has the right to feel special and unique. And I think that's partly that's what brands make people feel. So it brings you a very personal, emotional touch, and now it changes into like practical product as well. So personally, I think.
So mass personalization. Linda, what would you say?
For me, it's not a trend, it's like a contradictory, because traditionally brand is owned by the business company, and so far, actually, brands are owned by their fans. So for me, like, if you want to operate a brand where you have to share it with others, but in the meanwhile, you have to control the direction, otherwise you will go to a very, very strange direction and you can't control it. So this is a contradictory for brand leader to think about.
So where brands used to be owned and controlled by companies, they almost belong to the fans of those companies, to customers rather than to them. Yeah, okay. So mass personalization, that sort of shift of ownership of brands, what would you think, Anton?
I think because of those two things, brands have to be a lot more agile. They're having to be able to, instead of being a long-run tradition of this is what the brand is, and you know everyone knows what it stands for. It's a lot more important to be able to change and adapt really quickly, rather than having these things set in the brand culture.
And that's a paradox in a way, isn't it? Because one of the reasons that brands are useful is that we know what to expect from them. So they're consistent year after year after year, and that's how they work. But consumers also now increasingly want novelty, so they expect things to keep changing as well, and it's a kind of difficult thing to manage.
Yeah. And I think also sort of touching on many of those points we just heard there, I think brands need to have conversations nowadays. You know, the communications is very much two-way. So you were talking there about brand ownership, you were talking about agility, you were talking about mass personalization. And of course, that the requirement of that is this conversation that they have, you know, and of course, technology allows us to do that. The various social media platforms that we've got available, they allow customers to talk to the brands or with the brands and vice versa.
Which is precisely what the class this afternoon is about, actually. So communication as a two-way thing, not no longer a one-way thing. Okay, we've got about 4 minutes still to go. If you've got a question, do tweet. You can see our Twitter name there, @brand_leaders, I think it is. Do tweet any questions, and even if we don't have time to answer them now, we'll answer them after the webinar. Maybe we should just kind of round things off by asking what's been your kind of highlight of the year. We're only halfway through it, but your year so far, Andy, what would you say?
I would say this is now when I'm doing the project because I learned so a lot. So it's not like, so the last semester we got some practical events and trip, but this semester when it got to actually doing the project with the real client, I learned a lot that I haven't learned the last semester. So I would say doing the project now is my highlight.
What's the particular thing you've learned from doing it for real?
Well, I learned to compare, to talk with the client because, like our client is quite consistent. She's very ambitious, but she's really consistent with her brand. So talk her through, and doing a pitch for her is just what we learned a lot. So doing the presentation, how to persuade her, and like doing all that brand architectures and communication is really helpful. Okay.
Some highlight for you?
I would say getting to know the class. It's been really interesting. You just sort of see the world slightly differently. You see how many different outlooks there are.
So you don't really need Peter and me. It's all learning from each other.
Yeah.
What's been your?
Yes, for me as a foreign student, actually every moment I spend here deserves to be highlighted because it's really exotic for me.
It's exotic.
Yes. And to be honest, for me it's like the current project is really challenging because our class is really great, very competitive, I have to say somehow.
Very competitive?
Yes,
okay.
There's a lot of people who has really great performance in the industry or in their undergraduate course is gathering here. So it's somehow very competitive. And for me, as a branding, at this time we are engaged in a real project, we have to be responsible. It's not for ourselves, for our client, but also for our class. It's really professional course. So, but the more we are pushing this project, we can see somehow the limitation of ourselves because it's a really big project, but you have to say branding is a big task. You have to cover every aspect of this business. You have to take care of this business. So you have to think about more. It's not about branding idea, but also about designing and also about business budgets. So it's really challenging, but very, very, very impressive, I have to say, and very different from the course in China.
Good. Okay. Peter, a highlight for you?
I don't think I'll choose a specific event, but for me, the highlight every year is seeing the students go through the journey and sort of growing as they go through the journey. And the people that I meet in September every year are very different from the ones that we say goodbye to or au revoir the following September.
I would agree. And growing in two things particularly. One is confidence, I think, and the other is criticality, your ability to to look at things and be critical about them, not take them at face value, and it is very exciting to see that.
Yeah, fantastic journey to go on, you know.
Yeah.
And we bookend the year by having a dinner with all the students at the local restaurant.
Mhm.
And then at the end, when they hand in their dissertations, we have drinks and pizzas outside my office. So, you know, food is something which is central to this course.
Essential to life.
It is.
I would say central to life. So that's 30 minutes. That's our time is up. Hope that's been useful for you. Thank you very much to Linda and to Amy and to Tom. And we hope to see you here in September.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.